This region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, June 24th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you get any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area, and we'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here, July corn down 2 at 4.17 1/4. July soybeans are down 3.5 at 10.55 1/4. And July Chicago wheat was down 10 at 5.42 3/4. So this morning we had an export sales announcement, real solid 630,000 total metric tons of corn to Mexico. 554,400 was for 25, with the balance of 75,600 for 26. What we know here this morning, obviously everybody tracking really closely with this on again, off again ceasefire. Apparently we're back on. It appears the president has kind of softened the tensions here. Looked like we were kind of on the brink of going back to all out bombings. But as he's going to NATO, it appears that we've calmed things down a little bit. Crude oil again, sharply lower here this morning. So I know we'll touch on that. And it appears that the weather is non-threatening. I don't see anything in the way of changing forecasts that's going to get us worked up here fundamentally for our markets. So I guess with that, Dustin, maybe kick us off this morning. I know we were talking before the show, just, I don't think anybody on their bingo card yesterday saw crude doing what it's doing. And certainly it's got a carryover effect into our markets. So I guess what are your thoughts as we start the morning?
Yeah, so it's, classic buy the rumor, sell the news. And, the unintended consequences of, ceasefire is that they had already kind of figured in a lot of that worst case scenario into the pricing going into the weekend. And then fairly large setback as it appears things are settling down a bit. Impact on grains. I think there's probably a couple of things happening right now. It's certainly not a great, development for those that are hoping grain prices go up. Obviously, $100 plus crude oil would have supported grains more than likely. So that's one negative thing. But I also think the other part of this is that we are continuing to progress into the end of the seasonal period, even though we haven't had a seasonal rally. It's still the end of the seasonal period where we start taking weather premium out, and weather's just continued to be really good. I think that's part of this. And then last thing was, I think that first notice day is something that's probably driving a lot more than people think. Contracts that need to be settled up before Monday. So basically this week, anything that's on basis only off the July contract, any bushels that need to be moved here this summer, all of that's kind of coming to a head right now. And it's really being led by the July contract, especially for corn. So that's probably one of the bigger things I think impacting the market that not a lot of people were talking about. It's good weather, but why would that be led by the July then? This feels like a liquidating market to me. And it could be a classic pre-first notice day weakness with a little support after it. You combo the fact that, Monday is first notice day, but it also happens to be arguably the most important report of the year, June 1st stocks and, the acreage number. So you're going to get twofold here. The natural liftoff of not having first notice day pressure anymore, but also a huge fundamental news piece. And it could be that we did find a bunch of stocks that would explain some of the sell-off as well, that we were more abundant than we expected. It could be an acreage surprise. You never know, but Monday is going to be kind of a deciding factor, I think, for a lot of the rest of the summer.
Yeah, very good. Ben, what are your thoughts with everything that's going on?
I think a lot of it is what Dustin said. We're just seeing a ton of pressure. Going back to yesterday's comments, a lot coming to fruition in the next 4 trading days. And, you don't see anything really threatening on weather right now, but it is encouraging that we have dropped enough to see a pretty sizable sale to Mexico this morning, that maybe we're finding some value. I think ultimately we need to get something concrete with China to have some confidence that maybe there's some future demand, maybe more robust demand than's already penciled in the coming year. So, this is always a tough spot. A few days before first notice day, they make markets really, really bad. But to Dustin's point, we're going to layer in an acreage update as well as a stocks update onto that day. So I think that becomes a pretty potentially a pretty volatile day. The trade is certainly convinced that there is more supply out there. And I think they're fairly convinced that there could be more corn acres. I'm a little bit more Switzerlandy on that. I think that when you start out at 95, it's going to be tough to find it. And if they do it at the expense of beans, then beans become really interesting quick. So
that's good stuff, guys. It's been a pretty blah trade to start the week. I know there's not a whole lot of fresh outside of the give and take stuff. Justin, what, anything?
No, I think those two guys said it pretty well. This stocks report, first notice day, a lot of times it can be a kind of a big turning point because you get such a big data dump. So try to be patient, trying to be open-minded going into the report. It's pretty obvious. We made contract lows in July corn, so the funds are getting justifiably shorter because that's their job. But this is I think can be a fundamental pivot, like these guys said. We're gonna have new information to trade on right now. It's just a boring trade. There's not a lot of excitement to put a position on because there's still too many of those unknowns. The weather's been too good. Do I think it's perfect? I don't personally. I think it's okay. I think it's a normal year. I think there's fantastic areas. Northern third of Illinois, most of Iowa, big chunks of Minnesota. There's really good areas, and there's really some not so good areas. So I kind of put it in that, the yield could still be kind of anything. The extended forecast has been not very reliable, so it's really hard, past a few days out to really get a feel on, is it going to get into a hotter and drier pattern, which we were kind of looking at last week, to now there's, storms every couple days to, so it's a weather market right now. And obviously with all this other stuff and the trends down, just not exciting. I think you're going to need some new pieces of information, whether it's, deals with China, to Ben's point, whether it's, a surprise on stocks or acres or both. Right now, I would say demand's been good this whole time. So, we are exporting stuff. We're using stuff. We do have a really good demand market. Obviously, the animal sector's on fire. So I think from a demand perspective, everything looks pretty good to me, especially with kind of a failing dollar or falling dollar, I should say. But here, look at like what crude oil did yesterday, and I'm sure you guys probably talked about this. I popped in a little late.
Mm-hmm.
But these things are, it's amazing how fast they'll take risk off the table in this environment. I think we talked about it yesterday, but to go from, up 4 to down 7, and then there's still missiles being fired, and then you're down another 5. Very, very odd market behavior. So I'd be curious to see what happens after we get this stocks report out of the way, go the 4th of July weekend, see what people really think about crop size and get some more data points to trade on. So.
Well, very good. With that, we'll wrap for the morning. Like I said, there's not. We'll just continue to watch what's evolving in the Middle East and things like that in the outside markets here. Appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to do so. It'll keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We appreciate that. We're doing this live every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. We hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.